Ladies, welcome to the Feminine Mystery. My name is Azalea Dawn, and on my channel I talk all about leveling up femininity, relationships, and everything you need to get into the hypergamous relationship that you desire. So if any of that interests you, then check out the rest of the videos on my channel. Today I'm going to be talking all about releasing the fear of letting go in a relationship. The reason that I wanted to talk about this topic, in relationships in general is because, when it comes to anything, I think that a big fear that's very common amongst people is rejection. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want things to end. We don't want to have to let go of things. We are afraid of heartbreak. And I wanted to talk about this in the context of breakups and makeups and divorce, and just talk about some things that I have learned over the years that have really shifted my perspective when it comes to relationships and the risk that's involved in this. I think that one of the things that I'm definitely noticing about especially younger generations like Gen Z is that fear of rejection is so huge and so massive, and it's causing a lot of sort of, the more risk-averse behavior to really manifest in terms of how people are pursuing relationships. And this is something that I think is really not healthy, and it's not the most sober form of thinking, to be honest, because everything has risk in life. So we're going to talk in this video a little bit about how my perspective on the risk involved in relationships really changed over the years, especially in my 20s, as I started to have more different kinds of relationships come to an end. I'm also going to talk about how you can start to make the end of a relationship go from a negative to a positive, how you can take this entire thing that's happening and make it a win-win situation regardless of what goes on to happen in your life. So if these things interest you, then keep watching this video, and let's get into it. Now, ladies, the first thing to understand is that most non-romantic relationships also have endings. This is something that it was a big lesson that I had to learn, especially in my 20s personally. I was very much of the mindset that I just did not want to go through all of that emotional hoopla. I didn't want to have these very deep breakups and be sobbing on the floor and on the ground and whatever. I did not want to have to go through all of that, and I used to really think at the time, okay, why not just have these really good, really high quality friendships with other women and get a lot of my emotional needs met from that? Why not just have these really high quality experiences in other arenas of my life and just let a marriage be kind of, on the back burner? And there is something to be said for the fact that things in our lives really do happen for us, not to us. Because as my 20s really played out, I learned so much about the difference between friendships and relationships, and how one is definitely worth investing in a lot more than the other. And surprisingly, that is going to be a romantic relationship. At the time, I really thought, okay, if I am just in a friendship, it's going to be easier to maintain, blah, 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 blah. But this is just not the case. At the end of the day, relationships are relationships, no matter what form they take. For example, I was in grad school, as many of you who have listened to me before on my channel may know already, but I talk about this a lot. I am not just, an internet bimbo. I am a PhD, I am a scientist. And, it is technically Dr. Azalea, the more you know. I was in school for many, many years working on a PhD in STEM. Before that, I had several other degrees also in STEM as well, and I was very well positioned to do that at the time. But one thing that really stands out about the experience in my mind is how like just the relationship and the dynamics really changed over time. Coming in, it was such like a beautiful, nurturing, and positive and uplifting thing. But over the years, there was just really an emotional toll that graduate school really took on me individually, and that it takes on many people, especially in a STEM kind of background. And the tides just really turned to the point where like there were just things going on in the relationship between me and my advisor at the time that were sometimes less than positive. And I could not have like envisioned something like that happening when I first came into graduate school. But time and just the fact that relationships change, it just is what it is. In the same way, friendships. I have always been somebody who was like living my Sex in the City fantasy. I wanted my urban tribe of girls, and I am just, very much like a charismatic personality. So it's very easy for me to like assemble like these friend groups around me. And like one of the things that I learned in my 20s is that even these friendships, I have a very easy time maintaining relationships in general. But let me tell you, maintaining these really close, personal, tender friendships is not that different from maintaining, romantic relationships. The only real difference at the end of the day is that when there are problems, it's going to take the same effort, if not more effort, to fix a problem just because women are more complicated in general. But it's going to take the same, if not more effort, to fix any kind of problem that goes on there. But there's not the same reward. At the end of the day, you don't get to live with this person. You don't get to build a family with this person, right? You don't get to, have intimate relations with this person unless that's just what you like, frankly. No judgment here, but it's just a relationship without all of the pros of a romantic relationship, to be honest. And it's also a bit of a time waster because when you come out of these friendships and you've invested all of this in years and years and years, you have nothing to show for it. And that is one of the things that really changed my perspective about the risk involved in relationships. At the end of the day, like how I feel now, especially as an adult, is that the most important relationship to be investing in is not with the friends. It's certainly not with any kind of workplace or even with education beyond your basic education. It is definitely those romantic relationships, nurturing them and taking them to levels of commitment. That is a thing that's going to serve you and serve most women more than anything else in life. And that is one of the biggest takeaways that I really had from my 20s. And I really hope that if you're in a place where you are a little bit earlier on in your journey, that you just consider that right now, that if you are to reach the end of a relationship, you want to have something to show for it. So that is really how I would start to evaluate risk. Now, ladies, the second thing that I want to touch on is the fact that marriages are much easier to maintain than many other types of relationships. I think we are fed this kind of, propaganda, this idea that a marriage is so difficult to maintain, the divorce rate is so high. Oh, it's so hard to actually stay in this marriage and make it work in the long term, and marriage is constant work, blah, blah, blah. As I just touched on, all relationships are work. It just is what it is. And that work really does not change based on the context. The reward is simply what changes. And just as much as, we're fed this narrative that marriages are hard to maintain, marriages are some of the most lasting and enduring relationships in society. In reality, a lot of other relationships, like friendships, dissolve much more easily. One study actually showed that I was looking up online, actually showed that young women were most likely to report losing touch with friends during the pandemic, right? They just stopped talking to their friends altogether over a period of 12 months. And that's all it took for this to happen, just, going through a slightly stressful moment in society. They're just not reaching out, they're not in contact, and before you know it, people are just losing touch. And that is a thing that is just, really goes to show, as much as like we're fed this narrative that marriages are the relationships that end, friendships end much more quickly than many marriages do. Trust me. In fact, other studies are showing that Americans have fewer and fewer friends than ever. We are really in a friendship pandemic where fewer and fewer people have close personal friends at all, and the quality of our friendships are also diminishing. So don't think that it's so risky to have a marriage, right? That is just something that really does not stand up to scrutiny when you really think about it. As much as these other relationships, seem like they might be easier, they dissolve much more quickly than marriages do. Marriages are some of the most enduring relationships that are on the menu in society. So if you really do want to have a relationship that is going to last, a marriage is in fact the place to be looking for that. Ladies, the next thing that I want to talk about here is how to position yourself to benefit from a divorce. Now, this could be an entire video in and of itself. That said, I just want to start to touch on it more and more because goodness only knows when I can actually be relied on to make this video and post it to my channel. I'm always concerned about being controversial, so I don't want to say things that are going to ruffle a lot of feathers. But at the same time, I really feel like if you've made it this far into the video and you're one of my regular viewers, you really need this information. This is the kind of thing that I would, lean over and whisper to you at a dinner. This is just the kind of thing that I would make sure that you know and are thinking about when you're going into a marriage, because it can really determine the quality of life that you have afterwards. You want to make sure that you are positioned to benefit from anything negative that happens in your relationship. And that is probably going to involve signing a prenup. Now, in the culture at large, prenups kind of have like this stigma about them where they are kind of like, the idea is that you are going to sign this piece of paper that says that you get nothing at the end of a marriage. But that is not the case. A prenup is a prenuptial agreement. It is a contract, right, that dictates what will happen at the end of a marriage, specifically in regard to finances. And most of the time, there can also be other terms like custody of children, etc. Whatever you are looking for is available to you, because in the United States, at least, you have something called the right of contract. And that essentially means that any two parties can get together, create a contract with terms and stipulations, and agree, right, sober and notarized, with somebody there to witness that contract, right? You can agree to anything that you want to have happen, and that agreement supersedes any U.S. law, as long as what is in the contract is in fact lawful to begin with. That was a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what this means is that when you sign a prenup, you essentially get to dictate the terms that are going to happen at the end of a marriage, and you don't have to be leaving with nothing. In fact, you can stipulate exactly how much of something you will be leaving with. A prenup, for example, Beyonce has a prenup, and what was in her prenup, or what has been reported to be in her prenup, was, first of all, an infidelity clause, and second, a lump sum payout for every child that she gave birth to in the course of her marriage. I believe it was a lump sum of $5 million per child, plus alimony of some sort. So this is an example of things that you can stipulate within a prenup itself. And let me tell you something, if it's good enough for Beyonce, then it's really not something that you should be, turning your nose up and saying like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. Another example of a very favorable clause in prenups is infidelity clauses, right? And this is something where you can work with an attorney to really make sure that this works for you, because you want to be very clear about the standard of what is considered infidelity. Is it texting? Is it, intercourse? Is it a romantic affair that didn't have intercourse? Is it having another child outside of the marriage? What is the definition of infidelity in terms of this contract? What is the burden of proof, right? What counts as proof of infidelity? Which parties are liable, right? Are you also liable for the same penalties if you are found to be, if you are held to that standard of infidelity based on the contract that you agree to, or is it one-sided and just for your husband? These are all things that you can dictate within a prenuptial agreement. So it is something that you really want to pay attention to at the beginning, because this is essentially what is going to define if a marriage is going to be beneficial for you or not. Just like Robert Kiyosaki says in terms of, like real estate, the money is made at the purchase, not at the sale, right? He's talking about his ability to scout out undervalued real estate that he knows that he's going to be able to sell for a profit, right? That is the real skill. In the same way, for a woman, your value when it comes to any kind of benefit that you're going to have when it comes to a marriage is all about the marriage process itself, not the divorce. So you want to go into it knowing that things are going to work out in your favor should anything happen. Now, ladies, the last thing I want to touch on is to remember to save what you love. I think that, this video can be a little bit heavy. It's a little bit, what ifing, these very, negative scenarios, talking about what happens when this happens and what happens when that happens. And it can create a feeling of fear and anxiety of loss in life. But that is no way to live. I would really encourage you to just enjoy the ride in life and to save what you love, to highlight all of these special moments that are happening and just enjoy things for what they are. When you're entering into a new friendship, you don't have to enter into it with the expectation that something is going to last for the next 40 years of your life. You can just enjoy the day, enjoy the lunch, enjoy the conversation, take pictures, have fun and laugh and throw your head back and just, enjoy the moment to the fullest. In the same way, in a marriage, you don't have to be marrying somebody with the expectation that they're going to be with you until you're both buried in plots next to each other. You can just enjoy things in the moment for what it is. You can take pictures. You can go on vacations together. You can create memories. You can create a family together. You can just enjoy things for what they are and save these special moments, because at the end of the day, you want to be focused on saving what you love, not killing what you hate. You want to focus on taking the positive with you through life. And that's one of the things that I love the most about the Kardashians on their show. If you look at like Kris Jenner's life, for instance, there's been a lot of, dark and heavy stuff that has happened, from the O.J. Simpson, the end of life of, her friend in that case, to the death of her late husband, Robert Kardashian, from cancer. There's been a lot of heavy stuff, not withholding the infidelity and the marriage to now Caitlyn Jenner. There's just been a lot that happened there. But one thing is that Kris is so sentimental and she focuses on the positive. She saves all of those wonderful moments. They're scrapbooked, they're videotaped, they're on television. There's just so much wonderful family stuff that she keeps with her, and that really is just, her entire philosophy is all about creating those memories and creating those moments in life. And I really think that's something that more of us in the world could learn to take a little bit from. So with that, that's going to be the end of this video from me. If you've enjoyed it, then please leave a like below, and I will see you in my next video. Remember to take risks, go be in love, and just enjoy the ride. I'll see you next time.